We on?
We are on.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Vicki Brenner. I'm a library technician at the Ingersoll Library. And our little Zoom meeting today with Scott Gillies of the Ingersoll Cheese Museum and George Emery, Professor Emeritus, history professor from Western University. We put together a book over the course of last year, and it's come to publication, and we just want to promote that, tell you how you can get your own copy or borrow one from the library. So I'm introducing Public Festivals in Ingersoll, and it's loaded with photographs of Ingersoll celebrating Queen's birthday, Dominion Day, royal visits, old boys reunions, and a wealth of information from the Ingersoll Chronicle and notes, etc. So I'd like to have George Emery give us a little, he was sort of the driving force behind putting all this material together, and he'd like to speak about that process. George?
Thank you, Vicki. To begin with, this isn't my book. It isn't Scott's book. It isn't Vicki's book.
Right.
It's our book. We enjoyed putting it together as a creative, well-integrated team, which did not exist at the time the text for the book was done. The team developed from interacting amongst the three of us to revise Vicki's photo gallery on the library internet site. We encountered a series of mysteries, gaps to fill, corrections to make, and we drew mutual inspiration from the experience of putting this together. And I would highly recommend you tapping into the photo gallery. It's got 30 excellent files on aspects of the history of the town.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add to that, Scott? Your photographs from the museum collection really bring the book to life. They really illustrate all of the great articles from the Chronicle and just how Ingersoll celebrated over the course of 80 or so years covered in the book.
Yes, I would agree that it certainly adds more dimensions to the book. And from a museum point of view, it was tremendously worthwhile to work on the project because we had this variety of unrelated photographs, objects, pamphlets, postcards that were just, from umpteen different donors over the last 40 years. But then by going through the copies of the Chronicle and reading about all these different festivals and events, suddenly it all began to make sense. And so we've been able to then fully appreciate the backstory behind the photograph, or behind the pamphlet on the old boys reunion,
Yeah.
or the Queen Victoria Jubilee medals that we have in the collection. Mm-hmm. Suddenly it all begins to make more sense. So history has come to life through this research project that we've all participated in.
Yeah, a real timeline was kind of established. Mm-hmm. So I can share my screen right now with some of the photos that I've just put together for this little talk today, and perhaps you can sort of narrate, make a comment on them. So this is just our what our book looks like. The cover showing. Oh, I'm going to go back to that. A band, all Ingersoll citizens celebrating at the corner of Thames and King Street, looking north. And we chose, I think we chose that for the cover just because it so well illustrates the word festival to me. So I was very happy that that was chosen to be on the cover. And as George points out in the book, everything starts with the band. And this is one of an Ingersoll band. And that one is also on Thames Street, but looking south. And this was a Forester's band. That's correct, George? You're seeing that one?
Yep. With the new uniforms.
Right.
I think the year was 1899.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the pork packers employees in their butcher's aprons, and then we have a band in the front.
Vicki, we're just interacting. We're not recording now, right?
We are.
Oh, well.
We're just giving people a taste of what they can find in the book.
Yeah, I was just thinking with the Forester's band picture, that started us off.
It did.
Originally on the photo gallery, it was somebody's band
right
on the street, and we were able to detect a couple merchants' signs, and that led to the Chronicle, and we nailed it. And then you guys came up with additional pictures of the band.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, this was the genesis of our team.
I agree. You determined that this occasion was to show the new uniforms. Yeah.
And it led to our first serious integration with you, Vicki, over this.
Right.
And then we really got lucky. Scott chimed in.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about a lot of these photographs are not only the subject matter that was, the intent of the photographer, but then when you start to examine what's in the background.
Yeah.
What are some of the details, the architectural details, or the street lights, or the town clocks, the one of the band, right? You see Alex McCarter's jewelry store, right? But then there's also looks like probably a gas lamp fixture outside of his shop, right? Or the one with the pork packing company, right? You see that there's bunting fluttering in the wind. It's just that blur across the top of the photograph.
Right.
But then you can see that Robert Nishaw had his corner drugstore, where most people today may remember the old Bank of Montreal, the old Royal Bank on that corner.
Yeah, right here is where Scott's talking about.
Yeah.
With the...
Right. So, and this was like a 3-story building with several different businesses, but you can read corner drugstore right on the corner right physically of the building, right?
Yeah.
So. And in the distance, the Presbyterian Church when it had a steeple.
Yes.
Yep.
Which we know from our church file.
That's right. And often the details are what helps to date the photos, as that George spent much time trying to date photos based on small details like sidewalks being there or not being there, or businesses being defunct and such like. So arches played quite a role in the celebrations of Ingersoll for royal visits at this time. But they continued over many years, even up and from the 1870s all the way to 1909. The old boys reunions were creating these elaborate arches for any celebration that Ingersoll participated in. So just the sheer, this is the same corner again, is it, looking at Thames Street looking north. Just the sheer manpower it must have taken to build these arches.
This is the Miller's Arch, is it?
cheesemaker's arch. So those are all individual cheese boxes that are stacked up and then piled on top as well. Yeah. Presumably they were empty. So.
Yes. Yes. And this would be
This is the Miller's Arch.
Miller's Arch, yeah. So this is on Oxford Street. The town hall on the right, and the Daily House on the left.
The Silsby steam engine pumper right in the center of the arch. Right there. Yeah. The pride of the fire department at the time.
So Hugel was the photographer and recorded many of these feats of engineering to build these arches. So much of his photography is at the Ingersoll Cheese Museum. So, and buildings were decorated with bunting for many of these occasions.
Yes, that was for the visit of the Marquis of Lorne and Princess Louise.
Yeah. And Ingersoll citizens out celebrating in the park. I believe this one's from around 1908. Maybe a Queen's birthday celebration. So picnicking is still.
Looks like it's the Ingersoll Fair.
That's right, George. You're right. And the marathon. This is along King Street, looking southwestish. And again, these are later examples of arches created to celebrate the Old Boys reunions when perhaps people born in Ingersoll that had since moved away would come back for a weekend to party at home. And corporations really got into the spirit of promoting their business and welcoming home past citizens. And the post office, decorated in bunting for an occasion. And this is in front of the town hall, another photograph from, and 1909 was sort of a heyday of photography. Lots of great ones from Hugel and others.
This was visitors from Detroit.
Right.
They put on the Mikado.
Mm-hmm.
A mystery that Scott discovered, and we eventually solved it.
Right. Yeah, I think Scott knew right away what the occasion was based on the costumes and whatnot.
And reading different articles in the collection that reported on this, contingent from Detroit and the show that they presented, and so it's like Scott knew it was the Mikado, and he knew the year.
Right.
I couldn't find any mention of it in the Chronicle for that year. And the reason is it's not Ingersoll people, it's the Detroit contingent.
So that's just a taste of what you'll find in public festivals. So I welcome you to find your own copy through the Ingersoll Cheese and Agricultural Museum in Ingersoll. Or the Ingersoll Historical Society. Debbie Johnson is a contact to purchase your own book, or you can borrow a copy from Oxford County Library. So thank you for joining us today. And the process of putting this book together was a complete joy, and I was extremely lucky to be invited on this little journey. Thank you both.